shed light, Steve and Chris, they're gonna fly. No stone unturned, the facts alive. Bigfoot story now defined, footsteps here and shadows there. In the woods they do prepare. Come and search the light away. Bigfoot secrets shown today. Sunday night of lights to shine. Sunday night of sunshine. It's one team, it's time to shine. Sunday night of lights to shine. Sunday night of lights to shine. Squatter is all, it's time to shine. Squatter is all, it's time to shine.
Welcome to Squatch D TV, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch D TV. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch D TV for today's date, September 15th, 2024. I'm your host, your guide, Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, with that gentleman right down there, my co-host, Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Steve, man, it's good to see you. How's everything going for you in New York?
It is going marvelous.
Good. We've been having some nice, cool weather here lately.
Yep.
I've been liking that. Turned the air conditioner down. It's good.
Sure. Well, we're not quite there yet. It was kind of a warm day, but it was a pleasant day. So that was a good thing. Had to run one errand today, and we got that done. And hey, before we start up, I just want to throw a shout out to the Buckwist crew, Jerry, Bill, Leon, and of course the illustrious Tom Steenberg for having me on today. What a great show, great time, and check it out too if you haven't checked out their program. Go over to their channel, the Buckwist Crew, BUKWAS Crew. Great show, a lot of science-based, logical talk about Bigfoot. Check them out over there. And I see some people are starting to dig the new intro in there, what he's talking about. We got a new person, the judge, in there in chat saying, reminds me of Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah. It's a very retro 70 type of intro. It actually is the same length as the other one, but it seems to move a lot faster than the country one. I kind of like it because before you know it, it's like, wow, it's time to get into the same time. It's amazing how your perception of time changes. That's right. Yes, we'll have guest host Danny Terrio next week, and we'll introduce Dance Fever. Remember that show, Dance Fever?
Yeah. I remember Solid Gold too. Dionne Warwick, I think, was the host on that.
Yes,
that was interesting. But I didn't quite make the Solid Gold dance crew there.
Yeah, I'm lucky I made Solid Lead.
Yeah, I can't even dance sitting in the chair without hurting myself. So I think those days,
true. You gotta watch
those days are pretty much over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like many, many years ago, nowadays you do the hokey pokey, you throw your left hip out, you do.
Well, I never could dance anyway. I'm not going to ever try to make anybody believe I was like John Travolta, but at that time in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, that was where all the women were. So you would go there to the discotheque and, you would wiggle around and do what you had to do in order to talk to.
Yeah, wasn't it true you Air Force boys love the discotheques?
That's not true. No, I'm talking about this is before my military days. But by the time I was in the Air Force, disco was dead. I mean, it was gone. Everybody like, I can't believe I used to do that.
Yeah, that went real quick too. That died out like that.
Yeah, it did.
It was like, there it was. And then all of a sudden, gone.
Yeah. Like everywhere you went, somebody had like the disco balls. You know, the ones that were like rotate and they had light shining on it. And had little strings of light all over the room. Those were cool. I always liked that. Like, give me one for here. That would be cool. Just hang me a disco ball up there.
We should do that for a show. Just but we had to put a seatbelt on you for the intro.
Yeah, I'll need a seatbelt for sure.
When you're falling out of the chair.
Yeah. Oh man.
And then followed up by the bib. We'll get a bib next time. Anyway, let's kick our roll call out there. And we got a heck of a fun show for you tonight.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of people over here tonight because I'm scrolling. Now I'm at the top. Golly.
And guess what? What's the chat doing, Chris?
It's hopping, evidently, because, wow. Yeah. Glad to see everybody in there.
Guess who was first in tonight? Pat Collins. Hello, Pat.
You made it.
And, of course, Relic Common, who did make it in for the Buckwitch Crew show because that was early enough for him.
Right.
He will be popping on tomorrow.
Well, we always appreciate Relic Common coming in and saying hello, and we'll catch you on the replay there, bud. I understand it's very late.
Walter Kroll's in the house. Sharon, again, she's from Belgium. She'll probably be watching tomorrow, too.
Yeah. Wow.
There's Jerry from the Buckwitch Crew. Good to see you, sir. It was
a
pleasure and my honor to be on your show. Great time. And once you read the books, I'll gladly be on any time for you guys. Pete H., good to see you. Denise Berteau, welcome.
Denise. Hey, I think Denise is new. Welcome.
Sandra Piper. Hello, Sandra. Eyes in the Woods. Just listening tonight. That's okay. Who else we got in there? Matt, Central Florida Bigfoot. Mick is in the house, of course. Our Mick. Little Kilroy was there and at the Buckwitch Crew. There we are. Kilroy. I think we already said Bristol. Bristol is in the house. Mrs. Trackway is there. And, of course, that means Mr. Trackway is also there. Bill, how are you?
You guys?
And you guys real soon. Who else? Angel Nolan. Hello, Angel Nolan. Good to see you. Karen Fisher. Hello. Smedley Do Right. Hello.
Okay, I'm lost.
The Judge. New name. Welcome.
Oh, the Judge. I like
the Judge. The Judge. You know what that reminds me of? The Judge. Anytime I hear the Judge, I think of this. Better behave. I wish that thing would not auto reset to loop. That's kind of a, you said it not to loop. And anyway, traveling with Jim. Jim's in the house.
Jen,
the bouncer is in the house along with her office assistant. Cute little feller. Boris Kahn, good to see you, Boris. Lester Taylor, hello. The Susie Monster is back, of course.
The Susie Monster, Lester.
Yeah, Jeff, my good buddy Jeff Trifoletti, good to see you, sir. John Swan, who mentioned Soul Train. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm glad people are having a positive response to that. I mean, I like it. It's a little fun.
Well, it's fun. It's fun. Even if you didn't like disco, it's still fun.
And that special effects, I kind of added those in to make it look kind of retro a little bit.
I like the color flashes and stuff. I like that. It just puts you right back into the 1970s, bud.
Danny Staten, good to see you, Danny. Hello, Kaiju Ninja 1985, watching from a hot tub. Not really. Mick, gifting 5 members. Thank you, Mick.
Mick, thank you so much. You're too kind, man. What a guy.
All right, and I think we've gotten the folks that are in chat so far. And excellent. Thank you so much again, Mick. And tonight's topic just came up. A lot of times now, like I said, the show is shifting a little more towards the educational, a little more fun. We're still gonna have these great stories and stuff like we did. We did the St. Helens show Friday night. Was that Friday? Yeah, it was Friday a couple of nights ago. Wow. And
see you, Bruce.
Hey, Bruce, good to see you. And that was a lot of fun doing the Mount St. Helens show, listening to some of those stories, and we'll be doing more of those. Like I said, there will be a follow up to that one eventually down the road. I just don't want to beat a horse to death over a period of 1 week. Let's spread it out a little bit, spread the wealth.
Well, it was interesting. I liked some of those. I'd never heard them before. Well, some of them. The first one I think I'd heard at one point in time, but
and that got me to thinking for tonight's show. We talked about the injured Bigfoot. How it did sound kind of cockamamie. Had a burn on its leg. Well,
right.
How did you just get a burn on your leg in a volcano? And that environment, it made no sense to me. But it got me thinking to, what illnesses or what pathogens that a Sasquatch may or may not be, vulnerable to.
Right.
And so that led me down a little path this morning in tonight's show's research. Oh, yep. Sorry, we didn't mean to miss you, Arthur. You are there. Hello, Arthur. Good to see you.
We love you, man. I'm sorry, man. I get lost about halfway through while I'm scrolling down
what
there.
happened there too was when I switched over for the dun dun dun. When I came back, it did not set me up on the same spot on the chat.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
The chat jumps too. Yeah.
But
guys, got the chat hopping, dude. I'm telling you.
Yes, and for those who aren't members, I did a little video this yesterday. I put out for the membership on a little bit of American history in my neighborhood. I wanted to reach out to everybody, and I'll be doing a little more of those for folks, doing a little bit off-topic stuff and some behind-the-scenes stuff. And it was nice getting out into my area where I live and just showing people where I live. And obviously we showed that wonderful, surrender site that occurred during the Battle of Saratoga. And that was kind of fun doing that. And I've been meaning to do that for a bit.
I love that stuff. I love U.S. history. And, if you live next to a great area like you do, you take it for granted, because you see it every day, so you don't think anything about it. But for someone like me, that I've never been in that specific area in my life, I was just thrilled to death to see that stuff. And, I really hope you'll do more because I enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean that's just a tip of the iceberg. This, like I said, my area. You don't go too far going down the main stretch of US Route 4 in this area without seeing a historical marker of some significance.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I pull into my little local gas station, or it's a convenience shop, ice cream shop, coffee shop, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I pull in. There's a marker in front of the store on the street side that said this was the last position of the British artillery during the Battle of Saratoga, just prior to the surrender. And that's where they parked all the cannon, was right there.
Yeah.
Where I get my, where I go in and get my coffee and creamer and smokes every morning.
Yeah.
So it's, wow.
Well, those are the two main. Well, you get New York and then Pennsylvania. Those are really the main areas where everything happened at the beginning of our country, and it's such a great learning experience to experience that with you when you show.
And luckily, I next to my collection behind me of Bigfoot books in the living room, I have a huge entertainment center with two parallel bookcases to the entertainment center. It's built up and I have a whole row of Revolutionary War books. Oh yeah. And because I was very big into the Rev War, I was very big into the Civil War, so I'm very read up on that. And so I know all the, especially Saratoga, because it was so close to me. So I know all the players out there, and one of the main players there was Benedict Arnold. A lot of people don't know that, the infamous Benedict Arnold. But we'll get into that in other videos. And, and we'll get back on the Bigfoot topic right now. I just wanted to digress and say that's what's going on over on the member side. And of course,
don't stop. Don't stop.
Shameless plug. Supporting the membership supports good Bigfoot research, and we'll be out there doing it again next weekend. The 28th. 28th, we'll be out in up at the Whitehall Sasquatch Calling Festival, and we'll be out in the field Saturday night. And of course, last year we had that awesome audio. Who knows what's going to happen this year, if anything? But it's going to be a good time. We'll get some interviews done with some folks out there,
Very cool.
So we have a lot of fun. Anyway, let's get into our topic tonight: Bigfoot under the weather. And there have been reported observations of sick or injured Bigfoot limping or favoring a limb. This could indicate an injury, such as a broken bone, a sprain obtained while navigating the rugged terrain they inhabit. Lethargy or slow movement, a Bigfoot moving slower than usual, appearing lethargic, may suggest illness or weakness. Visible wounds or lesions. Some witnesses have reported seeing Bigfoot with open wounds, possibly from fights with other animals or environmental hazards. And finally, unusual vocalizations. Changes in vocalizations like coughing, wheezing sounds could indicate respiratory problems or other illnesses. Why, shoot. We have that here all the time, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
But so
well, that's kind of interesting. I've never. I know I've seen the video of the injured Bigfoot from who was that guy? Ivan Marks, the limping.
Yeah, the
Bigfoot,
limping Bigfoot. Yes, that was kind of.
I didn't really put much faith in that video, but
no, and you shouldn't, because that was the that was the video from that
Boris
tried to be sold to Peter Byrne for $25,000, and supposedly it was based on the Cripplefoot tracks.
Yeah.
But to me, that whole thing, a lot of people don't realize that it was Marks who found the Cripplefoot tracks. DeHinden was sitting next to him in the car when Marks pulled over and said, "Let me check this field."
Yeah.
And he came back to the car and he said to Renee, "Hey, I have all these tracks in this field." And he turns around and that's where the Cripplefoot track. So I always look at the Cripplefoot tracks kind of dubiously because of that. Yeah. Now, conversely, John Green had always argued that Ray Wallace modeled his stompers after the Blue Mountain tracks.
Yeah.
But what came first, the chicken or the egg? And that's
right.
Kind of what worries me about both of those pieces of evidence, is that you have a known hoaxer who actually found the Bosberg Cripplefoot tracks. And I know a lot of people have tried to argue with that with me, but I've pulled out Renee DeHinden's book where he wrote with Don Hunter, where it specifically says that DeHinden popped out of the car and found the tracks, or not DeHinden, but Marks popped out of the car and had found the tracks. So, it always leaves those dubious questions, because at the time nobody knew Marks was the hoaxer he was.
Right. Well, it's not like Bigfoot hoaxing at that time was actually a well-known big thing to do. There were only a few people doing it, and now everybody, his brother, has access to a gorilla costume, makes YouTube videos.
Yeah, exactly. And so there we have some basic.
Kaiju Ninja said, "Are these the same tracks that the two bulges that Krantz kept showing?" Yes,
that is correct.
Yes.
So,
but with Grover Krantz, God rest his soul, a very respected, very well educated man. He may have overanalyzed that. All he had was a casting that had bulges on it, so it's very well he could have overanalyzed that.
I mean, he did say that the bulges seemed to be in the proper places. Yada yada. Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? I just have a real issue with the fact that it was actually Ivan Marks, and I know Renee DeHinden got the credit for that all those years, when in actuality it was actually Marks who had found them. I guess DeHinden had a little more gravitas at the time than Marks did, and perhaps that was the whole reason for Marks doing what he did. I mean, they may very well be legitimate tracks, and Marks probably got angry or mad, maybe that he wasn't given as much credit as DeHinden for finding those tracks.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I got this film of a Bigfoot, and it's a cripple. It's one limping around.
Well, at one point on one of these shows, Steve, you had a photograph of the Cripplefoot track in the snow, and we analyzed that, and we were looking at it pretty closely. I can't remember what the show was, but you had a photograph of the Cripplefoot track prior to being casted.
Right.
And it was just a track in the snow. To me, it looked like a boot track, and somebody had done something else with it. what it looked
Yeah,
like to me.
I mean, all I can say is that I was not there, and
Right.
they have the
Exactly.
cast, so they may have a little more on it than we do.
Yes.
Um, if everybody's looking at the same picture, we can all have the same opinion. But the fact is, they had the cast, so I don't know. I mean, I just look at the history and go, could they have been fooled? Absolutely.
Right. And unless you were there, you don't know for certain.
Correct.
But the best thing you can do is either like it or not like it.
Well, it's one of those things where I say I just don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
It does have a dubious reputation for that. Although you would ask 90% of Sasquatch researchers, and they would disagree with you. They would say, "Oh no, it has a dubious reputation. Who found it?" And then people will say Renee Danden, and you say, "No, it was actually Ivan Marks."
Right.
And somebody had called us on that too.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was the night you went and got the book.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. I got the book and read it right out of the book. I think it was like page 254, maybe 252.
It's still up there. Some of the stuff.
So yeah. All right.
Where were we?
So let's get in. Let's go back and look at our chart here. Why are illnesses that we have important to other primates? And of course, we understand that Sasquatch would be in that primate scale somewhere. Yeah. And of course, we have the percentage of DNA shared with humans. And here's your chart. We're only lacking 1.2% DNA with the chimpanzees, or they're only lacking gorilla 2%, and of course, the orangutan is 3.3%. So that's how close they are to us. And
well, that's the thing. Normally diseases from one animal do not jump across into another species,
right?
And but when they do, that's when bad things happen,
right?
Because the receiving species has no immunity whatsoever to this new invading virus,
or you would think, and some of the items that I have looked at really are pretty amazing when you think about the great apes. Aside from us, we do seem to be the wimps of the bunch. We have less immunity to some of these things than they do, which is it really amazed me. I figured they would be equally or near as susceptible to those things, and it was pretty amazing. And I had to,
oh yeah, Lester's got it.
Yeah, Ron H. John, there he is. Good to see you, John. I think I know who that is. Who else calls me Pookie? Is that the WGBT or WGBH? David Parker in the house as well.
David? Yeah, Lester. Whoops. Wait a minute. Steve and I were talking about this before the show.
Well, let's not get into that. That's actually part of my chart.
Okay, go ahead. It's interesting.
And that's the first thing everybody believes is that. So let's get into the chart real quick. So I know you mentioned HIV. Believe it or not, while other great apes can get HIV, they rarely develop AIDS. They just, they rarely develop it. Even the ones that were infected by the U.S. government to test rarely got AIDS. That's how they found that out. So for whatever reason, the HIV virus, in fact, they have something very similar called HIV, called SIV, and it stands for simian immunovirus.
Mm-hmm.
And SIV actually is what started first, and it mutated into HIV, which affected us. So that was a very interesting type of thing. But common cold, here is the big kicker. Common cold, great apes are not susceptible to the common cold. They just don't get one. Now, wouldn't that be interesting to find out what part of their immune system can can turn off that susceptibility to the common cold virus.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. My dog is whining over something.
Okay.
So
I'll check out the assistant there. But yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting topic. With the primates not getting a cold, that's not hardly fair. But if they could determine what it is that causes them not to get the cold and maybe figure that out for humans, that would be great. But I got an idea. It's something about the way the virus latches on to their cell. Something won't fit properly or something.
okay. So okay.
Oh,
What's up?
Jen makes a good point. She said, Jen says, I had wondered with the shutdown and people going out in the woods more over the last few years, could that particular virus be passed? I mean, they said you could give it to your pets.
Well, here's the thing.
Started out in a bat.
Now we got to mention Warren mentioning that word, the COV.
Yeah, we're not going to be talking about it. No.
Because
we're not going to mention that word.
That was not necessarily a 100% thing. Sometimes they would get it, sometimes they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree, John, that chances are that a lot of the ailments of a Sasquatch would probably be bacterial rather than viral. Because all of these things a lot of these are viruses here, not so much bacterial.
Yeah.
So I would
a cut or step on something, and I can't go out in the woods. I don't camp anymore.
Very true, Boris.
Well, I used to camp, and if you walk around barefoot, I've seen people do it. I just can't do it. I'm not one that can do it. I always get a stick in my foot. It's like ah.
Right.
So the whole time you're out there now, you're nursing a injured foot.
Right.
So
and like the funny thing is like polio. They are less susceptible to polio. Malaria, less susceptible. I'm sorry, malaria. They are highly susceptible. So the great apes can get malaria. The common cold, not susceptible. Ebola virus, although on the chart here they have some immunity to Ebola virus, they don't necessarily get Ebola virus either. Right. Leprosy. Oh, my skin is anyway. Leprosy. They're not a natural host to it, so they don't get leprosy. Tuberculosis is on the list, and while they do have, they have natural resistance or immunity, or they are less susceptible to tuberculosis. Smallpox, they don't get smallpox. They get monkeypox, but they don't get smallpox. So there's a lot of interesting things. So from that chart, and somewhere a Sasquatch will fall on that chart.
Yeah.
So it's to me, it's like when people say, oh, well, our viruses and colds will catch, no, it turns out that it seems like most of the, it seems like to me, they have more of a primordial immune system.
Yeah.
Where they're a little more rugged against, and if you think about it, we have immunity to a lot of things, but we have, susceptibility to a lot of these things.
Right.
And why is that? It's because, from the moment we're born, we're protected against a lot of these.
Yeah.
We are,
yeah.
For
all
example,
you parents out there, make sure you let your kids out and let them play and eat dirt and
yeah,
make for a healthier child.
Right, you do, because at those young ages, that's when our immune systems are building.
Right.
And if you put a child in a bubble and then you release them into the world when they're an adult. They don't have these acquired defense systems, and that's how the body builds up these defenses, is being exposed to these types of things. And for whatever reason, if you think about what's the commonality in all the great apes, is that they have no isolation from the world and its dangers. They let them out, they're on the ground, they're eating whatever, they're not sanitizing anything, they're just out there, and wow, they have all these immunities to all these things that kill us in some cases, or make us, permanently. And that is very true. They may not be susceptible. They can carry it and spread it, but that makes them dangerous to another extent. And there are some things like SIV, where we're not necessarily susceptible to SIV as a Homo sapien, but it did mutate into HIV. And the fact is that there are certain diseases that may, how should I say it, that will manifest in blood tests, but won't manifest outwardly. Right. In other words, it's a virus that's in you, but it doesn't do anything to you. And there are certain diseases that great apes or New World monkeys or other primates will carry that you can get, but in us they will not manifest. They will not exhibit any kind of symptoms. So anytime you mingle, especially like a Sasquatch, we talk a lot about, what will you do if we found a dead Sasquatch, or what will we do if we found a living Sasquatch, right? There is a risk of virus transmission or disease transmission coming in contact, because we don't have much contact with them,
right?
Per se. Most of us do not have common contact with chimpanzees or gorillas or bonobos or billy apes or orangutans. But conversely, if we come in contact with those, and we haven't been, we're kind of susceptible a little bit more to what they carry than necessarily they are of us.
Yeah, their immune system probably is a lot stronger than what we have.
And
we've kind of watered ours down over the years, or over the millennia.
Right. So that is a huge thing to think about. And
that's a good thing. That's a good point. Trackway says, I'd be more intrigued by a disease brought about by many carriers such as midges, mosquitoes, and ticks. Yeah, that's the thing. How do they keep from getting Rocky Mountain fever, or
right.
spotted fever?
But if you look, is that probably Rocky Mountain fever? Maybe not West Nile virus. West Nile virus actually came from Africa and made its way over here to the United States.
Yeah.
But via people transmission, basically.
Right.
But you have things like Coxsackie virus, which actually was first found in a community not 55 miles from where I live, in Coxsackie, New York. Huh. That's in not sure if that's in Albany County, but if it's not, it's just outside of southern Albany County. But Coxsackie virus, which is transmitted by mosquitoes, and you have bird flu, and you have other the number one disease transmitter is the mosquito.
Yeah.
Followed by ticks. Ticks. I've had a sister-in-law who had to be put in a sister-in-law, being that she was my sister-in-law's sister. Right. But she had to be induced in a coma because she had gotten a tick bite that had such a bad infection in it, or a bad virus in it, that it started shutting down her organs. So to slow that down, they had to induce a coma to treat the tick-borne virus.
Wow.
And it was gnarly. So the number one transmitter of all these are ticks and mosquitoes. So that being said, that would explain a lot of why the great apes that are out in the world, not put in a crib, not put in an incubator, but the ones that grow up in the wild, that are born in the wild, that are, incubate in the wild per se
Right.
after they're born, have a higher tolerance to all of that, is because they're exposed to those ticks, they're exposed to those mosquitoes at a very young age,
Yeah.
when the body system immunity is at its strongest.
Yeah.
And that's when they develop the things. And as we get older, our immune systems get a little bit weaker. So,
Well, yeah, after the first one becomes immune to it, then everyone that's passed on through that genealogy with
right,
its descendants are going to be immune also.
right, exactly. And well, I won't say that each immune system is different a bit. For example, platypus virus, of course, got to watch out for that. But there are certain immunities that will pass off genetically if they're in place long enough. Hence the possums, the possum's ability to not get rabies. But then again, that's not something that the reason why a possum can get rabies is technically not because of anything in its blood or its immune system. It's because of the body temperature. Its body temperature is actually lower than which the rabies virus needs to live in. So if they get infected, their blood the virus ends up dying in their blood because their body temperature is lower than what that virus needs to do to survive.
Well, there's one thing this brings back memories of the first time I ran over a armadillo. I was in Arkansas, and I was driving an 80 model Camaro, and probably, I don't know, 70, 75, going down the interstate, legal speed, whatever it was at that time, and or thereabouts. And I hit this thing, and I thought I'd hit a concrete block. Okay, I thought it was going to tear up the underside of the car. So I pulled off the side of the road real quick and went back to look at what I hit, and it was an armadillo. That was the first time I'd ever seen one, in nature. Yep. They're live, okay? And so I was like poking on it thing, and, it was dead, of course. But, armadillo, they're armored. I mean, it's got a hard shell. But long story short, let's get out of that. A few months ago, I was reading through there that you don't want to mess around with an armadillo. You don't want to touch one because they carry leprosy.
Yep.
Yeah. So after I read that, I thought back to that night that I ran over this armadillo. I'm like, oh my God, that could have been bad. Not only did he mess up my car, he could have messed me up for life. But the moral is don't touch an armadillo.
Yeah, don't poke it with a stick. Don't
poke your finger on it.
Don't poke it with a stick and then go after your worst enemy with the stick. Hey, what are you doing?
Poke it with a stick and then throw the stick away. But I couldn't help it. I was fascinated, and it did. It felt like I hit a concrete block when I hit this thing. I thought, oh my God, it's tearing everything off from underneath my car.
Yeah, and Bristol makes a question, and then they are a New World monkey macaques, and they can carry herpes with relative immunity, but if they come in contact, they can give you herpes. Yeah, nasty. You never know what you're touching. It's really weird. Like deer. I mean, deer ticks. That's where deer ticks come from. A lot of the deer, and.
Oh yeah, you guys in Australia too. They got those little koala bears, and they're so cuddly and cute looking. You want to pick one up and hold it. And I saw in a special not long ago, maybe a few years ago, maybe they carry chlamydia.
Oh.
These cute little bears.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Little creatures.
Hi, Doc. I know you're not going to believe this, but I got chlamydia from a koala.
From a koala. Yeah, explain that to your wife. Right. Sure. Yeah, let me guess. You want me to tell your wife, right?
Oh, it started with a simple kiss. Never mind.
But
Anyway,
but normally, stuff like doesn't cross over from species to species very often. But when it does, yeah, that's when we have a bad problem.
now, yes, armadillos carry salmonella, turtles carry salmonella, chickens carry salmonella. The word to the wise: handling any of those animals, make sure you wash up really well afterwards. And that's the secret to a lot of those type of because salmonella, I believe, and E. coli, and those are all bacterial disease, so they can be washed off. The stuff you got to worry about is the viral stuff, the stuff you inhale or get a droplet on, in contact with the mucous membrane. That's when you have these things, and even if you have a contact with that. I was in EMS when they really started talking about HIV transmission. It wasn't even HIV transmission; it was AIDS. And for the most part, a lot of us knew that the transmission of the HIV virus was it happened, but it was a very difficult thing to happen accidentally, right? And that's the same with all of these types of things. They're very hard to, as long as you're washing your hands, keeping your face covered when you're near some of these things,
right,
you're going to be fine. In 99.99% of the cases. The days, I've talked to medics, as long as they didn't have cuts on their hand, they used to deal with wounds before rubber gloves were a thing, right? So you'd have, there'd be medics that have blood on their hands or whatever. Right. They didn't get many communicable diseases out of that kind of contact,
right?
Because your greatest barrier is the skin. And the big thing is like right now I got a couple little cuts on my finger, but when you're dealing with that, you want to glove up, not so much to keep the environment sterile, but you glove up to keep whatever infectious stuff is from them from getting into those wounds.
That's right.
I've seen a couple of people have needle stick injuries and with people that were sick, and they always turned out testing out negative. So even that is like a very slim margin type of thing for those things.
Right.
But there was a big, oh my God, a needle stick injury. Oh yeah, they got to go through all these tests and they got to worry. And not once did I ever hear anybody say, oh man, I got a needle stick injury and I got this disease because of that. Never happened. So, does it happen? Yes, but it's not, it's the exception to the rule, not necessarily the rule, but you still have to go through the motions.
Right. I know if you're, to us hunters, or, I used to be a hunter. I hadn't hunted in a long time now, but if you go rabbit hunting and you get some rabbits and you're cleaning them, you always need to wear rubber gloves because you can get sick. If the rabbit blood enters a cut on your hand while you're cleaning it or dressing it, whatever you call it, it can make you very, very ill.
Now I'm gonna warn everybody in chat because I say, oh, how about this? How about that? I did not look up every single disease out there.
No.
The ones I looked up are on this chart right here. Those are the ones.
But now, I'm going to talk about the HIV thing and about the Alamogordo Primate facility down there at New Mexico. That was one thing that it upset me, and I still to this day I'm upset about it. They intentionally infected the chimpanzees with HIV, and hopefully their goal was to, when they became full-blown AIDS patients, then they could start testing on them, testing the different serums or whatever they come up with. And none of them ever developed full-blown AIDS. So that was totally a waste. They infected these poor chimpanzees for nothing. And we're not talking about average chimpanzees that they just, grabbed up off the ground somewhere in Africa. We're talking about a lot of them were the descendants of Ham, and these little creatures had given the government, U.S. government, service by being, forced to be in the space program, and helped us really. They helped us get to the moon. And how did we repay them? We infected them with HIV.
And don't forget the ham and eggs.
But where you could go and visit them before, they were let them outside in a nice little. It's a little caged area, but they would let them outside, and you could go out there and visit with them. And but after they infected them with that stuff, you couldn't.
The Biscardi flu makes you full of malarkey, among other things.
Yeah, after they infected them with the HIV, you could no longer go over there and visit them because some of those little rascals were spitters, and that's all I need. Get spit in my eye, and okay, well, daggone it.
Yeah, but like I said, even if they did that, you probably had a better chance not contracting.
Probably, possibly, yeah.
But you still had that possibility.
Sure, that's right.
That's where it becomes a little bit tricky.
That's where my luck comes into play, Steve. Because if they say,
I worry more about like those type of exposures. Now, in case anybody is wondering about my background, I was trained by the National Fire Academy and by the State Fire Academy for being an infection control officer. So I know about the communications of disease. When I was a medic, I was trained as an infection control officer. One of the few people that were. I, of course, was out there. I took it, had to sit through a couple of days of classes learning about all this wonderful stuff. Out of all of the type of transmissions, the eyes are very particular, and the mouth, because you have membranes in there where that is easily absorbed. So any kind of skin contact, even if you have an open sore or a cut, the likelihood of transmission is extremely low. But when you get fluid of an infected person into your eyes or your mouth, that's where you have subcutaneous things that vessels that will absorb that pretty quickly and very quickly. A lot of people don't understand that carbohydrates actually absorb into your body in the mouth. And it's kind of a rule of thumb, is that if you take a piece of bread or a piece of candy and put it in your mouth, what does it do? It melts. It dissipates. Or sugar. Raw sugar will melt in your mouth. Why does it do that? Because your body is absorbing it the minute you eat it. Certain foods like fiber and proteins, they don't do that. You can put a piece of meat in your mouth. It does not absorb through the membranes of your mouth. It only does that through digestion. The same with fiber. So a little biology lesson there.
I don't know, man. I ate some buffalo jerky one time, and that stuff was so good and tender. I think it felt like it melted in my mouth. It was.
Well, a little bit different there. Yeah, but you got to understand, in a piece of jerky, that's marinated with what? A lot of carbohydrates.
Oh yeah.
So what happens is
you get a lot of sugar in it too.
Right, you get that combination of carb inside the meats, like barbecue. That'll seem like it melts because it is. Those carbs are now, those molecules of carbohydrates are in between the protein. So as you're eating it, those carbs start to melt away, and it breaks up that meat, that fiber that it's been soaked and brined in. Yeah. So that's why that happens, and that's why a marinade, and isn't this weird how this transitions into cooking science? That's why marinated meat is more tender, because it gets infused with carbohydrates that dissolve in your mouth, thus making that meat kind of break away and melt in your mouth. Science lesson for the day.
I love my carbs.
That's right. But yeah, and you can do that. Just take a little piece of bread, stick it in your mouth, and after a couple of minutes, it's mush.
Yeah.
So,
but it makes you wonder.
Little did the audience know, 24 hours later they would be ordering full body condoms from Amazon.
Oh man! But because they're a different species, though, I mean they have some protection from us.
Yep.
As far as passing along diseases. But like those tribes in Central and South America,
Right.
that like have no immunity to our diseases, you know, are at great risk if somebody goes in there and, hey, I'm a scientist and I'm here to, you know, next thing you know, the whole tribe's dead.
Yeah. How you doing? I'm from the Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, then everybody's dead the next day.
Yes, we have our top scientist here from the Immunology Commission. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Ah,
I think that's the thing, and I think that's why people.
is he sick?
I think that's why people get this idea about that the Sasquatch could be in danger from us by passing on diseases to them, but and because they think of it the same way as like us visiting a tribal culture,
Well,
but though they're different species.
here is a great question. See, that's why I love our audience. They always
yeah.
come up with some great questions. And Kaiju Ninja asks, what kind of remedies do you think a Sasquatch use to make themselves better? As far as them thinking, well, if I eat this, this will cure my cold. I don't think that goes on, but I think they have some natural instinctual things to say if their stomach is upset. Think about a dog, for example. A dog will eat grass. Why do they eat grass? Because they need a little bit of roughage. They may be feeling a little irritation in their bowels or their stomach, so they eat grass to kind of offset the high protein diet sometimes. And that's why, because every once in a while they'll need fiber. The same thing that coyotes will try to gnaw on bones because they're lacking calcium. So I really think that similarly, you may see a Bigfoot eat, plant matter that may be conducive to assist in digestion.
Yeah.
Or something herbal or medicinal to maybe clear whatever stomach ailment they may have. They may have this natural, knowledge or passed on knowledge that say, hey, I'm feeling well, eat this. And chimpanzees do that. Although I'm not specific to what, but I do understand that all your animals will eat certain things if they are lacking certain nutrients or need certain nutrients.
You got to think that it probably goes back to the way animals know somehow to eat a certain plant if they're feeling a certain way, and that plant will help them.
So Mick says, in all seriousness, it's just possible that examining a live Sasquatch specimen could help develop new vaccines, cures, because they may be genetically close enough to humans. Well, they've been doing that with chimpanzees for years. Yeah. We go back to that slide. Remember, chimpanzees they're less than 2%
right
different than us, and we still haven't broken that code. And as you can see, like number one, the common cold. How come? The great apes don't catch the common cold. Why can't we lock into that secret from studying them?
Well,
I don't know.
Maybe they could figure something out about how to grow hair from studying a Sasquatch. If they do, I'll buy a tube of it. Rub on my head.
Yeah. Hey, there's been reports of balding Sasquatch too. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always wondered about. The reports we got about the white Sasquatches and the gray Sasquatches. I wonder if that could be like I'm sorry, I know this is off topic here a little bit, but I wonder if that could be a process due to natural aging.
No, absolutely.
Like we were talking before the show, it's getting about time for me to get some more Just for Men here on the on the chin hair. But yeah, because you wouldn't think one would be born. Of course, I know they've got all different hair colors, just like humans, but you wouldn't think one would be born white and then stay white its entire life without being seen.
I'm looking at some of these comments, which are John said something about them eating campers.
Oh, Pat said The one I saw was silver gray with a balding head. He looked old.
Yep.
Age could be a factor.
Sure could. The answer to that is likely not. Well, number one, you're always going to heal. You break a bone, it's eventually going to heal. Problem is, if it's not set, it heals wrong.
Yeah.
So healing is a body process. It's not. And breaks and fractures, the reason we set bones, not to begin the process of healing. We set bones to make sure the healing process is correct. And that, who knows? They may not, they may be able to know to straighten their own bones out, I suppose. I would ask the same. I would ask the same thing about what happens when a chimpanzee breaks a leg or a gorilla breaks a leg.
Yeah.
What do they do? Do we even hear of that? And I think a lot of that has to do with the bone density, because the bone density of a chimpanzee and a gorilla are far, far more dense than our bones. They're not brittle. So I am not quite.
But we know from the digs that they've done on the Neanderthals that a lot of those did suffer broken bones that had healed, prior to them dying. So, a bone will heal. It just may not heal back straight like it was if you don't set it properly.
Right. Yeah. It's like any injury. If you don't treat it, it will continue to be there. Any type of ortho injury. I mean, you look at my hand. If I put it down flat, my pinky comes up, and that's something that's only happened in the last couple of years, and that's something that doesn't affect me a lot of times. I can grip things. In fact, I can go like this, and it looks like it's straight. But the minute I put it on a flat surface, it curls up a little bit. Yeah, that's something that I probably have to go to orthopedist, and they would perform a little surgery to open up that whatever and fix it.
Re-break it or something.
It was never broken.
Oh,
it just one day it was like, there it is. And evening, B-Tron. Good to see you. The B-Tron in the house.
The B-Tron, welcome.
And I see Lester Taylor snuck in.
Is Cy Sperling still in business? I don't know, Mick. I don't know.
Cy Sperling, I believe, is dead.
Oh, so probably not. He was he was not only the president of the Hair Club for Men, he was a member.
Also a client.
And I was kind
of like our former governor, Elliot Spitzer. Not only was he a governor, but he was also a client.
Dude, I was a member of the Hair Club for Men in my late 20s. Sure did. I used to be vain about, oh my gosh, I'm losing my hair in the middle. So I paid for a $2,000 wig, which is all it is. It's just they stick it to your head and it don't come off until you go back 6 weeks later for a haircut. $2,000.
Yeah, Bristol says Dupuytren's contracture. I suppose. Just in my pinky though. But anyway. Good night, David. I wouldn't call it suffering from it, but if it goes to other hands, other fingers, then obviously. But it's just a pinky right now, and it's kind of when I clap, it's kind of weird because when I clap, it does that contracture. But I got a lot of other more important things to take care of right now.
But reports of injured Sasquatch is interesting.
Yep.
And
now we're going to get into another topic here too. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Humans and great apes can both experience PTSD following exposure to traumatic events. However, the symptoms, triggers can vary. In humans, PTSD often involves intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, nightmares, avoidance behaviors, and hyperarousal. In great apes, PTSD symptoms might include social withdrawal, increased aggression, changes in appetite and sleep patterns, and self-harming behaviors.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Additionally, while humans might develop PTSD from a whole range of experiences, such as combat, accidents, and abuse, great apes are more likely to experience trauma relating to poaching, habitat loss, and captivity. And you'll see that too. A lot of times when they bring in a new great ape into an enclosure, it will totally isolate itself for a little while.
Well, how would you determine if your great ape was having or thoughts of self-harming behavior? I mean,
Hold on. Not thoughts of self-harming, but self-harming behavior, like hitting its head,
mm,
slapping itself.
mm,
Those are, self-harming behaviors. Taking a stick and hitting itself with it. Um, and in a lot of ways, if you think about it, we as Homo sapiens have a lot of the same behaviors. We see people that have, but this is specific to PTSD. But we have people that will do self-harming behaviors. We have the people that will cut themselves and cause them pain and stuff like that because uh, because they feel that psychologically they're not feeling sometimes uh, and I'm not 100% on this, but the reason why a lot of cutters cut themselves is because they're feeling no emotion and they
mm,
feel like they need to feel something. Let me feel some pain, or they create themselves pain to mask that pain. The emotion of that pain will mask the pain of whatever emotion they're trying to avoid.
mm.
So there's a lot of different things. So, and these are just things that we should look at that we should keep in the back of our head. Why is a Sasquatch beating itself about the head, breast, neck, face, and chest area? It may be because it's suffering from some sort of PTSD, be it, even combat within its own family members. If you watch an alpha male beat up your little sibling and kill it, within your family group, that may cause a PTS trauma in that particular family unit of great ape or Sasquatch. So therefore, you may have symptoms such as why you may have a Sasquatch that seems to be a little bit more aggressive than others, which has been reported in the past,
I
or
remember
why.
reading a study some years ago about PTSD in chimpanzees, where they were taken away from their parents as an infant, and but I don't remember the self-harming behavior thing. That puts it more like of a human thing. That's really
Well,
close to us. I mean, I know they got 98 point something percent DNA, but that's really
well,
that's
you got to
getting into
understand. I mean, you think about how
emotional thought. Yeah,
their brains process a lot of the same feelings we do.
right.
They just outwardly behave, show that differently. I
Mm,
mean, they have abstract thought, they have, forward thinking, they have abilities to problem solve, they have complex emotions.
right,
We learned that from Coco, the sign language gorilla, that when
right.
her cat died, you know, without provocation, she was telling everybody she was sad
Mm,
because her cat wasn't no longer there and she was sad and she kept signing the word sad. So, it's very amazing to think that although the vocal cords in some of these great apes are not developed to the point where they can form language to speak necessarily, they definitely understand what emotions are. And the other thing too is that chimpanzees, at least chimpanzees and gorillas to some extent, can be made self-aware. And
right,
the way they test those is they put a mirror up. And eventually, the chimpanzees and the gorillas would realize, and I'm sure the orangutans as well would realize that this is me. Then they start
right,
looking in the mirror, making faces at it. Well, no, that's what I look like. But do that to a bear, and a bear will sit there and snarl at
right.
will snarl at that because they're not self-aware. They look in the mirror and see their reflection and think it's another bear. So that's the. So just think of that, and that's why I laugh when you have these people. Hang on. When you have people that will say, "Oh, well, these people that flippantly say, well, I've hunted for how many years and I've never." Well, I'm a hunter, and why can't I hunt one of those? Because you're not hunting a normal typical animal. You're hunting. It's a primate, so it has a whole nother skill set, way above and beyond what a deer or a fox or a cat or a bear can do.
Right.
And that is like one of my big arguments. Like, yeah, but you're talking about a primate. You may sit there and talk all about what a great hunter you are, but have you ever hunted a gorilla? Have you ever went after a monkey or a chimpanzee? No. Well, then you have no idea what you're talking about, because this is a primate, and they have forward thinking and ability to problem solve and all this other stuff. It just it just shows you the level of the scope of thinking. That certain people look on 2-dimensional levels, and you got to kind of look at this from a 3-dimensional level.
Yeah.
Hang on, the office assistant is knocking at the door.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give the creatures, you don't want to apply too much humanity to them. You're trying to make them human because they look like they got 2 arms, 2 legs, just like we do. But to find out that the great apes are emotional beings, they feel emotion, and they can even have issues with PTSD and show symptoms and signs of that. And you would feel the Sasquatch would be the same way. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah. It blows your mind. I'll even get into the next topic, which is depression. And both humans and great apes can experience depression, characterized by persistent sadness, loss of interest, and changes in behavior. And in humans, depression can be triggered by various factors, including genetic predisposition, life events, and chemical imbalances in the brain. In great apes, depression is more likely to be associated with social isolation, loss of loved ones, and confinement. Very similar to the same things as PTSD. And that's a real good reason. Bristol asked, I wonder if that PTSD is the reason why they can't keep mountain gorillas in captivity. I don't know. There are some mountain gorillas in captivity. But I don't know.
Don't know about their mental their what would I say, the mental status of how they feel in captivity.
Yeah, I mean,
I can understand one being depressed if it's stuck in a cage 24/7. Yeah, that would be depressing.
but and I'll give you a great example. How did we feel? 4 months in lockdown.
Yeah.
Right. We're on our own. We're on our own property.
Yeah.
This is our territory. This is where we live, but we're confined to our property, basically, except with the exception of some quick trips.
Yeah.
Right. Gone is the day we can just feel that. And maybe that has more to do with having that feeling of freedom.
Right. Your loss of freedom.
It's more of a loss of freedom that, hey, if I want to today, I can go down and look at this and do that. But instead, I'm looking. I've learned, and this is something that the lockup taught me, was that confinement isn't even necessarily about space.
Right.
It's about freedom. Napoleon Bonaparte was given a whole island, the island of Elba. Right? There's a whole island. He could do whatever he wanted on that island, but still felt confined. So it's not about the geographical area. It's about the lack of freedom to go about yourself. And unfortunately, I think that's what predisposes certain nations, that like the North Koreans, where they don't have any freedom. They can only stay within their country, and that's it. And they have had generation after generation.
Boris, and how about mental issues like psychotic Sasquatch? You know,
Well,
that's the thing. You know, you hear
well,
about that in the South a lot.
now, I wouldn't necessarily call it a psychotic Sasquatch.
Well, they're definitely, you know, angry. I
Well,
think that would be safe to say that the reports of the ones in Alabama, of course, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but the reports that come out of Alabama describe a quite angry creature.
but how so? Would you describe? See, to me, that's a little bit anthropomorphic. Because it's being aggressive doesn't necessarily mean it's angry.
Well,
Anger means you ticked it off. You know, it wasn't.
well, this
It was just. I mean, let's face it. A bear that walks onto a property and aggressively goes onto a porch and is pushing on doors and looking around, is that because it's angry, even though it's aggressive? No, it's hungry,
right.
right? So is this Bigfoot being aggressive because it's curious? Not necessarily angry or psychotic. Now you look conversely at that woman that got mauled by her best friend's pet monkey, a pet chimpanzee in
Right.
Connecticut, right? That was an angry monkey, right?
Yeah, he was mad.
He was angry, but he had reasons. And what were those reasons? He was confined. He had lack of freedom. He was isolated against others. He was a male that had no female companionship, right? So there's a lot of buildup and reasons. That's why, chimpanzees make horrible pets because, the chimpanzee's not neutered. That would be cruel and unusual. But keeping it from having relations with the female chimpanzee, that I would say is cruel and unusual.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And that all builds up. Right. So that was an angry, psychotic type of behavior. Psychosis is not caused normally in other animals or other primates by predisposed genetics. It's caused by reactions to the environment. An elephant is an elephant until you put it in captivity and you start beating it, and then it decides to go on a rampage. Right? All those elephants that went on a rampage, they didn't even mind being in captivity. But they found if the handler was too abusive with that stick, that's when it would go on a rampage and start stepping on people and overturning cars and killing people. So,
Well, the stories that come out of Alabama were things like a hunter was chased out of the woods and he left his shotgun and he went back and found the gun wrapped around a tree, things of that nature. Uh-oh. I think you went to mute there, Steve. He knows. Yeah. Yes. But, when you get into those encounters, stories like that, and they describe very angry activities, I think Steve's going to be working on his mic or something for a few minutes, folks. I'll try not to bore you to death. Yeah, I agree, Ristle. Anger is an emotion. Defense is
having
is an
technical
instinct.
difficulties with my smart lamp, and for whatever reason, it turned off, and then it didn't want to come on, so I just went over and had to manually turn it on. But anyway.
Anger is definitely an emotion, and,
right?
To say for something to display anger, that emotion that determines it. Well, it's evidently an emotional being. It has feelings. I don't know. A murderous Sasquatch. I don't know.
Never heard of such a thing. We hear all these rumors and
the stories. Okay, stories about the Sasquatch beat me up or whatever.
Well,
but nothing.
Even in the most documented case, the Bobby Ford case in Fouke, Arkansas, he ran into it.
Right.
He was never assaulted by it. It never hit him. He ran into it and bounced off, fell to the ground, got up and ran some more.
That was a collision.
Right. It was nothing that the Sasquatch did intentionally. So you have to kind of look at it from that aspect. Bauman, I know people.
Me too, Boris.
Bauman, we talk about the Bauman incident.
Yeah.
If you believe it, that may just be a tall tale.
Right.
Remember, Teddy Roosevelt heard that from another person. That wasn't something he experienced. That was something he retold. And, who knows if the guy was pulling his leg a little bit.
From a guide or another.
And the one thing we always know is that there's always a sprinkle of truth to all the stories. So maybe they were finding tracks, because obviously they spoke of things that have happened before. Like, oh, we found these tracks and heard this beast and smelled this smell. And then one day I came back and found my buddy strangled. That may be the little add-on, because maybe true, maybe not. Maybe the guy was strangled and it was by something that wasn't even a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
We just truly do not know.
Well, at that time in life, they would have had to deal with Native Americans as well. So.
Yeah, well, exactly. There is too much of it. It's too anecdotal to really to delve on. We don't have a place. We don't have a time. We don't have a date. We don't have a names of actual people except the name Bauman. So there's not really much we can do to investigate that. But what we can do is look at recent disappearances and stuff. And although you hear all these strange things on missing 411 and this and that and that and this, and there is no evidence anywhere to suggest the Sasquatch is responsible for any of that. Aside from you applying Occam's razor, the most simplest explanation seems to be that somebody got into the woods and got in over their heads. And that is generally and something either, physical happened to them and animals, scavengers took care of the rest. Or
it happens almost every year as a routine. Someone will go into the wilderness looking for a Christmas tree in sometime in December, and they will get lost and inevitably die of exposure within 1 mile from their car. Yeah. And it's sad, but it's true. It happens. It's not uncommon.
Right.
We've became a society that is very pampered, and we can't go out in the woods and spend a couple of days without dying, unless we have all kinds of assistance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have become dependent on a lot of creature comforts, as I like to put it. But that's okay. That's, if you look at our bodies, that's why we've evolved the way we have. Right. We don't have the bone density we did as Neanderthal. We didn't have the bone density. We didn't have the muscle density we had because we have no need for it. But here's the other interesting thing: is what's the offset to that, Chris? Our offset is we have a much, much higher life expectancy.
Yeah, well, that's because of the advances in medicine, mostly.
Mostly, but not always.
We're not living a hard life, and when you live a hard life out there, like in the wilderness, like the old settlers did, you don't live as long. You're exposed to disease, and of course, they didn't have access to medical care, and those were tough people. But when you get, I don't know, scarlet fever or cholera or something like that from dirty water, well, without medical treatment, you're in bad shape.
Yeah, but how many of those diseases were caused by our own machination?
That's true. They didn't know. Yeah, right. They didn't know. We got to move the porta potty a little further away from the drinking water.
Right. I mean, why is it that a coyote can eat a chicken, right? Kill it and eat the chicken, and not get salmonella from it?
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the bad bacteria don't affect them. The same bacteria don't affect them that will affect us.
Right. And at some point, when we were eating meat, we weren't always cooking our meat either. Why didn't that affect us?
Yeah.
Right. So we lose that ability, but the trade-off was if we started cooking our meat, it made the proteins more easily absorbable when we cook it. Therefore, it increased our brain capacities, and eventually we developed much more rapidly than other creatures. How do I think a lame a Sasquatch might deal with a limb or a amputation? Well, as far as a lame limb, they'll probably just limp along until whatever. As far as amputation, I'm stumped over that one. That was a very bad joke, Chris.
You what? I'm sorry, I was reading the chat, but
I know.
you were stumped. You were stumped
over the
the
amputation.
You were stumped over an amputation. Oh my God. Okay, I heard it, but it didn't register.
When it's those transmission lines from north to south, sometimes they get crossed up.
Stumped over the amputation.
Yeah, and Pat says I think something is in their intestinal tracts that may kill toxins. Absolutely.
Very possible.
Between our stomachs and our intestines, we have a lot of enzymes and a lot of our own natural bacteria. That's will kill a lot of the toxins that we eat and kill a lot of the bacteria or counter the bacteria that we eat.
But
you know what?
Bigfoot would deal with a broken limb the same way that Neanderthal man or prehistoric man, Homo sapiens,
or chimpanzee would deal with a broken limb.
Right. You just, they would probably not put any weight on it and try to get by as best they could until it healed on its own. And what's the heal time on a broken limb? About 6 weeks, something like that.
Well, that depends on the type of break, where the break is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you have a spiral fracture versus a straight, non-complicated fracture, that's going to be one thing. You may have a compound fracture, which may escalate the time as well, or you could have a hinge fracture, which is where the ball of the joint could be, and that's really bad. That's really bad. No bueno. Because that will render a limb useless pretty quick.
The settlers and stuff, the pioneers, of humans, they were tough people. And I remember I watched a special on the Mountain Men. It was a documentary on one of, I can't remember, was it Jim Bridger or was it somebody else who got shot in the leg by an Indian arrow, and he amputated his own leg so he wouldn't die from blood poisoning.
Right.
And that would take a very tough individual to be able to do that. I can't imagine.
How about that hiker or that rock climber that got stuck? And there was a movie. It was right.
And he ended up 127 hours or something like that.
And he ended up cutting his own hand off.
Right. Oh my God.
To get out of that.
I can't stand that.
Deal with that. It's like some of those scenarios are nightmares. And I will readily admit I never I was never a claustrophobic person. I have a very while I was an investigator, I was really training hard to become a firefighter, and gotta love politics. But anyway, or lack of having politics or politicians in your corner. One of the courses I took was confined space awareness, and you would do all kinds of stuff, and I never had a problem with spaces like that at all. And it wasn't until I took a train the trainer course. Basically, I was training to train other firefighters from getting out of confined spaces while packed up. And they had stuck me in a conduit pipe with my pack on, but your masks that we used were completely blacked out. And for whatever reason, my pack got hung up in a bar they had put across the pipe. And the whole idea is in that pipe, you're supposed to take your pack off, get it in front of you and move it. But one of the straps had caught on that. And for some reason, when I got out of that, it created a PTSD effect in me to this day. The effects to this day is that I am very claustrophobic because of that.
It was Thomas
but
Long Smith who cut his own leg off. And it wasn't an Indian
So-
arrow. It was a
So
bullet.
when one of those claustrophobic phobias is getting stuck, and that has to do with getting stuck. And I tell you what, so every once in a while, you take a shirt off or something, or take a piece of clothing off, and if it gets stuck,
Right.
and I'm like having trouble getting it off.
Right.
I feel that I feel my heartbeat going up because of that. And
Right.
so
Well,
how somebody would deal with that is beyond really to me. Like, ow.
I can understand it because some people have problem, like even doing a MRI. They can't stand to be slid up inside the machine, and while they're doing the MRI, and the lady, I've had several done. I'm sure you have too.
Sure.
The lady that was running mine, after a couple of weeks, she said, "Are you okay, Mr. Bennett? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, yeah. Why?" She said, "Well,
yeah.
some people get uncomfortable with." I said, "Well, I'm fine." I said, "If you don't mind, I'm just going to take a nap." So I was just kind of trying to be polite and say, "Well, don't talk to me because I'm trying to take a nap." But it doesn't, the small space didn't bother me. But if you sit there and think about it, I could understand why someone would feel, I wasn't comfortable, but it's not like I was at the panicking stage or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if it was in the complete, and again, I've had those MRIs too, where they slide you under. I had one many, many years ago, and it was the last MRI I took. Actually, was open MRI, so I sat in the chair.
Yeah.
But I had the one where they would slide you into that tube. But
Right.
the difference there was it was lit up. I think being in a confined space and going like that adds to that claustrophobia, because when you add that darkness into it, you feel even more confined. So part of it is visual, not necessarily actual, at least with me. I mean, there are some people that would get in that spot and be like, oh my God. To me, it's more because of the mechanism that triggered this claustrophobia in me. It's more of a visual cue than it is anything else. So if I'm sitting in my car, which I'm not claustrophobic, if my car was to go into a ditch and I was completely in the dark and I couldn't get out of my seat, if it was daytime and I could see, okay, I'm fine. But if it was at nighttime and I couldn't see anything, then I would feel very well claustrophobic. So my claustrophobia is based on a visual acuity, not necessarily a physical acuity.
Well, we had a cave on the home farm there. And as I was growing up as a kid, I explored that thing. And where, you could go in and you had to dip your head down a little bit. But once you got through the opening, you could stand up. And there at one point you walk downhill for a little while and you look up and the ceiling's like 40 feet above you. And that was cool. And I was comfortable doing that. And matter of fact, I enjoyed that. But you got to one end of the cave and there was an opening, I don't know, maybe this big. I guess I could have crawled through it at that time. I was small enough. I could have got through there. But I looked at it and I said, no, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to do that, because I remember the story of Floyd Collins.
Right. Yep.
And that was our local guy who crawled in something about the size of a groundhog hole looking for a new cave system.
Right.
He got stuck and died.
And that's another thing. Caves. If there was a cave collapse, it freaked me out because you're in darkness.
Right.
Even if that cave had 100 foot from wall to wall, I would feel claustrophobic because you can't see and you're entrapped and there's no way out.
When you get into a cave like that and you're deep and you turn your light off, it's creepy.
And the funny thing is, as I talk about it, I can feel my heart rate going.
Yeah.
Because just thinking of that creates this reaction in me. and it's something you just can't get out of. I'm sure there's hypnosis and all kinds of fun stuff that could happen, but but my question would be, I've never heard of a great ape being claustrophobic or agoraphobic or having any of the phobias that we have as Homo sapiens. Is that due in course because our minds are a little bit more complicated than what they are? I mean, there's no doubt, even though there's, like I said, DNA wise, there's only, but our brains are much more complex than that of a chimpanzee.
I think so too. I think we tend to overanalyze situation where they would underanalyze it.
Right. They're a little more primordial than we are.
Right. We had the foresight to look at something and think what may occur.
Now you have to ask that philosophical question, and here we go. Now we're really getting into deep stuff. Did evolution
complicate everything? That's right.
Amen. Did evolution take a misstep with us by making us so complex that we've become a weaker species?
I don't know. I mean, we've got inquiring minds, and that's why we put them in on the moon.
Because you think about it, on our own, we would be the frailest of creatures. Think about it. If you're put into the woods without any way of defending yourself with your bare hands, a Neanderthal would have, a Homo erectus would have a better chance of survival than we would. Yet we are the more evolved creature.
Right.
But like I said, evolution is a weird thing, isn't it? Because
they had the things with them that they had developed to assist in their survival. If we take the things with us that we have developed to assist with our survival, we'll do just fine.
Right. Correct.
But if you put us out there with the same tools they had,
but let me ask you this.
Dead a mile away from the
let me ask you this question. Okay, if you were given the materials to make a rifle, maybe you could do it.
Oh.
Right. But if I was given the materials, here's some metal, here's a couple of bars of metal, here's some lead, here's some gunpowder, here's all this stuff, make a rifle. I don't know how to do that. But I'm given the materials to survive, but I don't know how to create that. The only thing I would know how to do is create a fire and learn how to keep warm. But anything offensive, I may be able to carve a spear. I may be able to carve. So in that aspect, maybe yes. But as far as our more complicated items, no. So if you kind of have to go back to your primordial habits. But then again, we are such a weaker weaker creature because of our evolution that even if I made a spear, it's still going to be a pretty bad pitched fight against something that I'm trying to kill. Right.
Well, let's ask the chat room, if you guys were dropped off somewhere 40 miles wherever back in the wilderness in grizzly territory, what would be the first thing you would do for self-defense or to create yourself a place where you're going to be more secure or you could protect your life? What would you do? What would you do? What would you do, Steve?
Well, first thing you do in any situation like that is try to start fire.
Yeah.
Because first thing you're going to need is warmth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And fires will keep your predators away.
Yes.
It will keep the coyotes away. It will keep the bears away. It will keep that away. So that's number one. It's not only for your own self-preservation, but it's for your defense. Then the next thing I would do.
One of the most important things to take with you in the woods is one of these. Because let me tell you, honey, you watch the guys on TV and the guys on YouTube, and they do a little thing with a stick. They spin the stick or they rub a couple sticks together, and the next thing you know, they got fire. It ain't that easy. It ain't that easy. No. If you've seen the movie, oh God, what is it? The one where Tom Hanks gets shipwrecked on the island. What's the name of that?
Castaway?
Castaway. Yeah. If you've seen the movie Castaway, when Tom Hanks is trying to start a fire with nothing, no modern thing, that is exactly what it is like. It ain't easy. So make sure you have something with you that you can start a fire
Now,
easily.
Somebody had said then water. No, actually, shelter would be next. Shelter would be next because you want to keep yourself out of that environment. The other thing about shelter too is you can use it for water collection. So if you make it the right way, you can actually collect some water with shelter. Then after that, then you're going to start looking for your comforts, water and then food.
Hey, Lester, look for the tallest tree. Amen. That's a good idea, especially in grizzly country. Yeah. But yeah, you could. That's the thing. Yeah, Trackway's right too. You could go for days without food, maybe even months. Yeah. But water.
You have to understand something too. Is that if you're in a forest, everything is green, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So they got to be getting water from somewhere. So water is not going to be, even if you get water from plant roots, you can do that. So if you're in a green forest, that's not a problem. If you're in a desert or a plain area, then water becomes a little more trickier.
Right.
It's it becomes a matter of priority depending on where you are. In the forest, there's going to be water somewhere. There's going to be water collected somewhere. We're going to find it. That's not too difficult. The whole idea is getting those time-consuming things done. Okay, I have my basic shelter. I have my basic fire going. Now I'm going to go out, make a rudimentary weapon, and then I'm going to go out with the weapon. Because let's face it, if I go out looking for water and I don't have a weapon and I encounter something that wants to eat me, then I'm going to be at a disadvantage, ain't I? So, you can dig for water.
Need a fire, and then you start sharpening up a stick to make you a weapon. You can get the food and worry about water next, and then you can get food later. Right. You'd be okay for several days without food.
Right. So that's why it's essential not only to carry a lighter, carry a knife.
Yeah.
A knife, you could do so many things. You could tie it with a vine to an end of a stick and make it a spear if you need to. You can use it to cut wood. You can use it to cut strips for your fire. You can do. We can
go full primitive. That's what we need to do, Steve. We need to make a video of us going out into the wilderness and just going full primitive, and making our own weapons and then surviving.
And then all of a sudden, what's Steve doing? Why has he got a hand truck? What? Hey, I'm just bringing in the air conditioner and the generator.
That would be a short series, I'm sorry that Chris passed away. Dude, I would not make it in the wilderness. No. Not that I couldn't. I don't guess, but not these days.
I think the fact remains is that I know a lot of people in chat saying, I could never do this. I could never do that. When it's a matter of survival, you will. You will.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's never, you can ask people from the 9/11 survivors that were there, from, people that have been in combat, people that have dealt with a plane crash and been stranded.
Right.
You will do things that you don't think you are able to do to overcome and live. This all comes back to the very origin of this discussion.
Right.
Was the 127 hours where this guy knew that if he didn't get his hand out, he was going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So he cuts his hand off, something that you wouldn't think you would be able to do, just like cutting your leg off. I think that not being in their position, I don't think it was probably as painful as we imagine it sitting here as it was to them, because that pain was minuscule to death.
Yes. Right.
Right.
Whatever you got to go through, it's better than death. It's better than death.
Bat Mom says, I need to make sure I'm stranded with MacGyver. Is he still alive? He is alive, yet I believe he's in a nursing home. But anyway, so that may be a challenge in itself.
Hey, Jew Ninja 1985 says, do you think Bigfoot uses fire from lightning strikes or forest fires or steals from campfires?
None of the above.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Now, I did read a report about a creature approaching someone's campfire, but it didn't mess with it. It was just a
Right.
curious
And if you think about the
curiosity.
chimpanzees and the gorillas and the orangutans, they've
Yeah.
all seen fire, but they do not understand the concept of it.
Right.
They know it's hot, but they don't understand the concept of it. That is something unique to us. That was our
Uh,
in the evolution of primates on this planet. That was probably the number one differentiation of Homo sapiens with all of the other primates, and that was learning to use fire
right.
and understanding behind it.
Finding the Trackway says it's amazing the things you can smell too when
Starving.
starving. I remember saying, "Okay, who has the peanut butter packet?"
Well, yes, and that's that. People think our senses are dead. If you get put in the middle of the forest with nothing,
Right.
your senses come alive.
Yeah, they do. They do. It
Your
takes a
sen-
little while. It takes a little while, but you can get back
For
to your
some-
primitive self. Yeah.
For others, no. It depends on the primordial drive in you. Think about it when you hear about people put into the air of combat where you have nothing but your survival skills left to deal with,
Right.
and they talk about smelling gunpowder or smelling blood in the air. Something you would normally not even think about.
Right.
Smells become your feelings, your hearing becomes more acute, your eyes become more acute. And there's a way you can tap into some of that when you're not there. And that's what people have a real problem with, is tapping into those primordial sides without that sense of urgency. But your body goes into in any type of survival mode, the limbic system takes over.
Yeah.
And when that limbic system takes over, your primordial instincts come alive. All of a
Right.
sudden, you're able to feel more. You're able to withstand pain. You're able to take an action like that.
Right.
Right.
And when you're in the woods and you
Right.
get that feeling, that creepy feeling that you're being watched, more than likely it's probably because you are.
Right.
There's something's going on.
So how does that relate to a Sasquatch, I suppose? And the big thing is that they are always at a constant primordial balance. In other words, they feel, they look, they smell, they hear. Now, their smell sensors are not. I talked about that with the Buckwheat crew.
Yeah.
That a lot of people, like for example, somebody made a comment about them smelling trail cameras. No, they won't smell a trail camera. They can't. We as primates do not smell scents like dogs, bears. Doesn't matter what primate you are. And it's very simple. Look at our physical features. None of us primates have that long snout to house the millions of scent nerves that dogs have, that deer have, that bear have, there's food, right? We don't have that built into us unless something is really close by. A few 100 feet, we may smell something. Or if a wind carries a smell to us, we may smell it. But it's not like a bear that can raise its nose and go, 5 miles that way, somebody's cooking a hamburger.
Right. But like Trackway was saying, though, once you start getting hungry, your senses are going to be at their tip top, and you're going to be able to smell if there's a peanut butter sandwich or a peanut butter and cracker somewhere around close.
Right. And that's your primordial thing. I smell it, and it's true. As a smoker, I've quit smoking before, and man, you can smell a cigarette from somebody smoking a cigarette 10 feet away, or 12 feet away, or 15 feet away. And believe it or not, Jen says that their sense of smell has to be better than our lives we live with, pollution. Not really. Let me explain. I've been around the same pollution that everybody's been to. Funny thing is that you can teach yourself to smell certain things. I can drive down a road and go, that's wood burning.
Mm-hmm.
I can drive down a road, and this is where it becomes a little different. That's a vehicle burning. You can drive down the road and go, that's a house burning. I can differentiate those smells just by smelling that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Our sense of smell is there, but we have to teach ourselves.
Would you believe I can tell you what kind of wood is burning by the smell?
Probably so.
I can.
So we have it there. We just don't give ourselves credit enough for it. And that is one thing that I call it, like I said, I call it reverse anthropocentrism.
Yeah.
Where it's reversed because we have extreme problems understanding what a Sasquatch is doing. Yeah. So they got to be doing it better than us because we are the highest thing on the planet. And that's our mind thinking, our centered, self-centered type of thought process. So they got to be doing something better than we do. When chances are we just haven't thought of the proper solution to something. And that's and that's why a lot of people go to the woo side. It's part of a reverse anthropocentrism where they say, well, it's got to be paranormal because we haven't been able to. Well, that's very self-centered. You ever think about us in our mannerisms? We're trying to catch something without a weapon, without, go out in the woods today, Chris, there are, 25,000 coyote in New York State. I want you to go out tonight into the New York State woods and get me a picture of a coyote.
Well, it'd be hard to do.
Exactly.
It'd be hard to do, even
Here's
though there's so many thousands.
Right. Now, deer isn't fair because there's over 1 million deer in New York State.
Oh, yeah.
But a coyote would be a good representation because there are tens of thousands of them, much more than a Sasquatch. And now we're asking you to give me a picture of a coyote, which is a timid creature, right?
Right.
And much more numerous than a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
Well, if you know how the coyote operates, I could go out there with a boom box and have one in probably within the next 20 minutes. But I'll be playing a wounded rabbit call, and he's going to be running full force looking for lunch.
Right. But do that without a call.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Because we don't know what necessarily a particular call would draw in a Sasquatch, if any, because again, a Sasquatch is a primate, so it may not fall to the same trickery we can use with other animals.
They can think, yeah.
Right.
So the coyote just hears a wounded rabbit screeching, and he thinks supper.
Instinct. Oh, supper. Dinner bell.
Pavlov's
dogs.
Sasquatch might hear the same thing and say, well, that's trouble over there. I'm not going over there.
That don't sound quite right. I keep hearing the same noise over and over. There's no differentiation.
Yeah.
Something doesn't sound right about that. I'm going to avoid that area, where I'm going to approach it with a lot more caution than, say, a coyote would. Like a coyote would be like, where's the food? Sasquatch may be going, oh, what's going on over there? So you got to understand that, but just go out in the woods with the camera. There you are. You're armed with the camera, just like all the skeptics try to claim, well, why isn't there more pictures of a Sasquatch with all these people with and that to no end is more annoying because you had a quicker draw with a conventional film camera than you do with a cell phone. Because cell phone, you got to pull it out, you got to swipe it open, you got to pull up the app, you got to bring it up, you got to focus it and take a picture. Now with the camera that's around your neck, all you have to do is pick it up, focus it, snap the picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, with the old cameras like Roger Patterson had, he just pulled it out and squeezed the trigger. That
exactly.
That would be cool.
And you're supposed to do this while looking at something you've never seen before, something that may scare the bejesus out of you. Right.
You're completely, a complete shock to your system. Right. But you've got to keep keep the train of thought going. Oh, okay. Well, I've got to
So
record this.
when you hear these, and this is a mission for our audience out there, when you have somebody say, "Oh, there's no Bigfoot," there would be tons of pictures with all the cell phone cameras out there. Bring that exact reasoning up to them. All right, take a picture of me. 5, you got 10 seconds to take a picture of me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and see how quickly they get their camera out to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
And well, you didn't give me enough chance. Well, you see a Bigfoot in the woods, yeah.
Yeah.
They're just gonna hang over. Oh yeah, go ahead. Draw your camera now. Right.
Gotcha. By that time, the Sasquatch is in the next county.
Right. And you can pull the camera out. Doesn't matter if you stare at it and it opens the phone up. You still gotta pull the phone out. You gotta unlock it because a lot of people keep their phones locked.
Well, my phone was unlocked. Yeah, so that was quicker. But yeah, it's it ain't easy.
And then you got to find it. Don't forget, you're on a trail and your phone's probably not working, so you probably got it stashed somewhere too. And that's the other, thing too. A lot of times I don't even carry my cell phone with me, and now I do because I use it for video.
Well,
but,
I
picture evidence.
I carry mine now.
But hey, Chris, look what time it is. We got a few more minutes left to the show.
Okay.
So that went by quick.
Oh,
so
Kaiju Ninja. I know people say Bigfoot seem to have small ears, but can they hear better than we can?
Well, think about it. Not necessarily small ears, but lack of earlobes. And what do earlobes do? A lot of times we have to look. Our earlobes are meant to center our main hearing to where we're looking. That's why when we hear something, we look. Or to understand somebody, we have to look at them, or at least turn in their direction. Hang on.
Yeah, I'll turn my head. If I hear something, whatever side it's on, if it's on my left side, I'll turn my head. Okay. To listen.
So I really think the lack of earlobes in a Sasquatch gives them more of an omnidirectional type of hearing. So they hear things behind them as good as they do in front of them.
Yeah.
And I really think, because think about it, that if we hear something behind us, it's a little harder to hear than it is if it's in front of us. And that's because these things are dishes. They are meant to focus sound that's coming in front. Obviously, we have these in the back. So obviously, when some noise comes from behind us, it's not hitting our ears as smoothly as it is in front of us. So think about the aerodynamics of it. So I really think that the lack of earlobes or the smaller earlobes give that ability for sounds behind it or at different angles a better shot of understanding. I really think that hearing is probably one of their number one senses.
And Ritzel's got a good point here, though. It says, Ritzel says, if they can emit infrasound as is theorized, they're probably capable of hearing it as well.
Very possible.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so as well. And that, again, goes directly against the other show the other night about the St. Helens. When there are earthquakes and tremors and stuff like that, there is infrasound emitted from the earth. And that probably would have told the Sasquatch, hey, there's something not right here. We're getting out of here. Right. So.
That mom says, guys, I was leaving a property a few nights ago in Tahoe. Something big made a ton of noise as it ran off. Had my phone in my hand. I kept telling myself, turn phone flashlight on, turn it on. I was too scared to move.
Yep.
That's very natural. That's very normal reaction.
Your mind is trying to make sense of what it's hearing.
Yeah.
And part of that is obviously the limbic system taking over. And, sometimes you freeze up when the limbic system takes over. It depends. Sometimes there's flight, sometimes there's fight. And you actually, believe it or not, were in fight. You were probably standing there. You probably felt your stomach go into a knot. You felt probably a little Skin changes. You might have felt some heat or sweat or static. And that's all very natural, because what happens is when the limbic system triggers like that, that blood rushes and it starts shutting organs off. It shuts down your stomach. That's why people get knots in their stomach. It shuts down your liver and stuff. Everything is getting ready, and the majority of your endorphins and your energy is funneled to your muscles, to your bone structure, and to your skin.
That must have, it was a bear or
you wanted to barf. There you go. There's a great example of that stomach shutting down because of the limbic system and getting ready to go. But anyway, Chris, it is 10:57.
Okay,
time to take us out of here.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We appreciate everybody in chat and all our members, man. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we're so thrilled and honored to have you here. I know you guys, I say this a lot, but I really mean it. You guys are the best audience that we could ever hope to have. And it's because of you that you make the show. There wouldn't be a show without you. And we appreciate you. If it's your first time listening tonight, or you're on the podcast somewhere, make sure to stop by the channel, Squatch D TV, or go to squatchdtv.com. Click the subscribe button. Check out the videos. You know, you might see something there that you couldn't catch on the podcast. We always ask you like, subscribe, and share. Become a member if you feel we're worthy. We appreciate it.
That's right. And thank you, Chris. And we do. We have the greatest audience in the world. We appreciate every single one of you being here. And we couldn't do this show without you guys. And we love all you guys. You guys are the best audience in the world. You asked some great questions, and we had some real good ones tonight.
Yeah.
And for those that are new here, welcome to the channel again. We always strive to give you the truthful, most insightful stuff we can about this mystery on a daily basis. And it looks like we've been pretty much hanging on a Wednesday show. So I think we're probably going to do a show this Wednesday as well. And we like being on the air and talking with you guys. So we'll come up with something for Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for a 1 hour show, as our 1 hour show on Friday. And of course, our 2 hour extravaganza on Sunday nights. And of course, if you do love what you're seeing, make sure you hit that like button, hit that notification bell. If you're subscribed, make sure you get all the notifications when we're doing our shenanigans. And if you find us worthy and you like what you're doing, check out the membership area. It's cheap. It only starts at 99 cents a month. And it's a great way to support honest and legitimate Bigfoot research. This is a no cryptozoology channel and no red circle channel. And of course, hashtag stopthewoonacy, because we're not about the crazy stuff. We're about the investigation science and the forensic science, and of course the science behind this mystery. And we strive to give you the best education content out there in regards to the Bigfoot mystery. So on behalf of myself and Chris, we want to wish everybody a great, safe, happy week. We'll catch you all Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the next edition of Squatch D TV Live. Of course, we love you all. God bless. And of course, keep on squatching. We'll see you all Wednesday night.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member. And it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research.
Yeah.
Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch D TV. Keep on squatching.